Welcome to Savvy Business, Life Unscripted, with your host, Christina Rivera, where our guests share their wisdom and valuable business tips, empowering our audience to expand their personal potential.
Hi, Sarah C. I just have to thank you for coming to Savvy Broadcasting today to share your great wisdom. I'm so grateful to have you here today. We discussed before our interview here, you wrote your book, 7 Years on the Front Line, the true stories and tough lessons about a small business that you won't learn in a classroom. And let me tell you, you can go to business school, you can get an MBA, but you don't learn these lessons in a classroom anywhere. You learn them in real life, getting out there, experiencing life, growing your wisdom. What do you feel now that you've been in business many years? And I read your stories. If you had to pick like one great wisdom that you've learned through your business life, what would it be that you've translated into all of your life experiences?
I would say in my book, I talk about gut feeling. I'm a Christian. We call that the discernment from the Holy Spirit. Yes. And the reason why I went through 7 years of adversity was because I refused to adhere to my gut feeling. Even I had this really bad feelings about a business transaction or certain business people I met. I refused to listen to those voices. Yeah. So I wanted to prove the voices wrong. So I went ahead and went into the situation that I should not have been in. And I ended up making some very fatal mistake for my business. But I learned from them. I would say, the biggest lesson I've learned is to really listen to your own gut feeling.
Yeah, it's interesting how that's happened. My husband will often say that I would get a deep feeling in the core not to do something, and I did it. And it always turns out badly. What do you think that's about, Sarah? Why do we often want to prove that voice wrong? Why do we think, no, we know better than that internal voice?
I think pride, in my situation is pride. We have this natural instinct, about ourselves. We because of pride, we don't want to listen to others who care about us. Even some warnings. So, we try to prove others wrong. In my case, I try to prove my gut feeling or the Holy Spirit wrong by going ahead, in a situation that I shouldn't have been.
It's so true. I in the past have prayed for direction and guidance. And you'll get that direction. You're like, nah, God, you don't mean that. You can't possibly mean that. Because sometimes you don't like the discernment or the calling, the push you get. I don't like that direction. It's not a direction I think I'd like. But God can see the whole picture, I always say it's kind of like a needle point. We can only see all the messiness. So to us, things will look like, no, that's a bad choice. But to God, because he can see everything all at once, it's in the now. It's not crazy to him. He can see what's our best course, our best path. And we'll say, no, like you. We'll let our pride get in the way and be like, no. I think this is the better path. And boy, do we pay for it.
Correct. Exactly. In my case.
Yeah, in my case too. And I think everyone, if we don't follow that deep discernment telling us, okay, here's a better choice and to go with it. And you know what? Another thing for myself, I don't know if this happened for you, but sometimes you'll go along with what's the better option financial wise. And I know that's happened both when I've been in a job situation and a business situation. You'll take on a client or a position or some situation that you think will be financially prosperous, and it turns out not to be so. But you're looking primarily just with the dollar signs in the eyes, as I call it. Yeah, you just like little dollar signs, and it doesn't turn out for the best. What do you think sometimes when you're looking at a situation, you do want to make profit? You're a business, but how do you decipher like what's the best action to take as far as financial, as opposed to long term?
I would say, based on the experience, we learn, whether to get into a business, a transaction, or a business opportunity to measure the chance of success, and also whether we're going to get, profit. If we do get some profit, how much it is, and we, also have to compare the opportunity cost. Mm-hmm. So, we're getting this much profit, but what if there's another business opportunity that comes along that will give you better profit, a more profit?
Yeah.
So you kind of have to use your past experience, and you can also do a spreadsheet, if it's, a more complex business transaction, to get a projection, of the profitability and also the chance that you're going to succeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You had a wonderful story early on in your book where you talked about having a friend that you thought would a friend and that would work out well. And she seemed to be a Christian. You thought, okay, this is good. We know each other. I can trust her. And you kind of went along without a contract. And I've been there. I've done the same thing. But for me, I actually decided on one case not to do a contract with a business situation. And the other one, we did a handshake for that one. But the other one, I knew her for years, and we decided just to lay it out in a small piece of paper where we just signed it and said, oh, okay, we're going to do this, and I'm going to offer you this, and you're going to pay me this. And both situations turned out horribly. One with a handshake that turned out to be miserable and we got no money. And the other one, we got money, but we didn't get all of it, and it ruined a relationship. And the thing I learned from it was that really I needed expert help. Like, how much have you learned that sometimes, like, I'm not legal. I'm not legal expertise. So I'm thinking I can put together my own little contract here. From your experience, how important is it for businesses to maybe get the outside help sometimes and not rely on their own, like, oh no, I got this. I don't need to go to a lawyer for a contract or something.
I would say, I'm very fortunate. I did go to law school, and I'm still learning a lot every day. But I think because of the 7 years of legal litigations experience I had, that really helped me to draft better contract. And the contract that I'm still using nowadays is the same one that I used when I first started my business, TSE. Oh, wow. So at that time, we got, like a couple of law firms that help us to prepare those legal documents. Because of my experience, my legal education, I already know what verbiage that I need in case I need to modify any languages in the agreement. But there are times that when it comes to the expertise, like the legal need that is outside of my knowledge, then, for example, trademark, then I'm going to need to seek, like attorney that specialize in that field, in which, I've been working with at least 3 law firms that specialize in trademark litigations, trademark law, which is totally outside my expertise. So in that case, then I'm going to, have to depend on the expertise from outside help.
Yeah. And that's the case with anything in your business, whether it be legal or otherwise. I mean, I've known a couple of friends who decide to go out and massive distribute their products and work with distributors maybe overseas. And if they're not familiar with working with customs or overseas distribution, whatever country you're working with, it's going to be a different experience in different cultures you work with and how you work with them. And, sometimes you just need like help on how you do that properly. For me, one thing I dealt with a lot of overseas accounts was the letter of credit. And it's very, very particular that if you do not follow them correctly, you'll lose a lot of money in chargebacks. So it's a lot of things to pay attention to and to realize that, hey, if I'm not an expert in this, maybe just get some help. So therefore, you're not like putting yourself in the hole later on.
Of course. Yes, definitely. Yeah. If you are trying to do something you do not have the experience, you're going to end up paying more to have, somebody else to fix your error.
Yeah. How did it work out for you, Sarah, when you were a child? Did you feel that the Holy Spirit and God kind of led you to be a business owner, or did that just come along as you became an adult, went to college? I mean, how did that work out that you discovered your calling?
I remember, first of all, I grew up enjoying doing artistic work, drawing, painting. I thought I would always want to be an artist. So, but I also remember there's some, my childhood memories. I like to make money. I remember when I was maybe 6 or 7 years old. So it was after the holiday seasons, I took down some of the Christmas decorations from my parents' home and I tried to sell them. So I remember that it was one of the very early childhood memory that I remember. I enjoyed the process of selling and making money from it. Of course, I didn't, sell anything, Another childhood memory, I remember when I was in elementary school, I actually made up my own raffle ticket and sold them to my classmate. And I did make some money, the teacher didn't discover. So I sold a raffle ticket, got money, and I came up with the prize. And some of my classmates bought into that. So from there, I remember I always enjoy the artistic aspect, of art, but I also enjoy doing business.
Yeah.
So, I think, like when I graduated from college with a degree in graphic art, I was always in the field in design, graphic design. Mm-hmm. But opportunity just came. How I started my first partnership, and then the first business with TSE Worldwide Press. It just happened naturally, but it's very interesting, that God only knew, what his plan was. And of course, there were obstacles along the way, but he was taking me from where I was to where I am. But now I'm in the field that I'm doing art and business at the same time.
Love it.
So, I have my dream job.
It's perfect. It's perfect. You know what's interesting about your story, I'm hearing, Sarah, is that for me as well, I think people who become business owners or entrepreneurs, it's kind of something that you want, this kind of self-sufficiency. I remember my parents say, we don't do salaries here. I mean, I don't give you allowance. I mean, you want an allowance, go get a job. It's like, because there's some families that, if you make your bed, we'll give you an allowance. My parents are like, this is your duty. We work here as a family. We all do our pitch in and do things to keep the household running. So vacuuming is not, you get some money for it. Everyone has to do their own individual tasks. But, if you're a kid like I was, and I want to have some things and mom doesn't want to get it for you. I remember at 5 years old, and I've said this on my show before, I decided to sell flowers because I saw there was a flower shop down the street. So I picked my neighbor's flowers without realizing that they were her flowers. And I just sold them to all the neighbors, including the neighbor that the flowers came from. I said, hey, I'm selling for 5 cents or 10 cents a rose. And she's like, those are my roses. I was like, what? But I was 5 and my mom gave me a nice spanking for that, to realize, no, you don't take other people's property. That's not how you sell. But, I think what your story shows is that it's kind of in you when you have that desire to create and to also create your own self-sufficiency of growing your own thing without, some people are like, I don't want to do that. I just want to go somewhere where I work for someone else. And, everyone's different. Not everyone wants to go and sell or have a business.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But it's wonderful that you have your dream job now. And so many people are like, how do I get that dream job? And have you always known that you were an artist and that that's something you wanted to do and it was a pull? Because some people say, oh, that's just my side hustle. It's not something I could do as a business. Was it something that your parents just kind of supported you in? You knew you could make into a business, or is it something that you grew into and realized could be a business?
I remember like my grandma, my mom's mother, so it passed away, when we were growing up, she would visit us maybe once every other week. Mm-hmm. And she was quite an artist. And my grandpa was a artist. Mm. So I remember growing up, my grandma would always teach us how to draw and also do crafts. And somehow I was the only children among my 4 other siblings that ended up studying art in the field of art. Mm. And I would say, my parents nurtured me in a way that they discovered I enjoyed doing painting and drawing, and they started taking me to classes. Oh. And then I remember I also got involved in a lot of art, like competitions when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. So I always won something, a little prize. So yeah. I think, through the inspiration by my grandma and also my parents giving me the opportunity to take art classes mm-hmm. during summer and, after school, and also taking me to art competition, that kind of like they nurture me, encourage me to excel in this area. But they didn't really focus on training me to be a businesswoman, a business person. There's some of my family members on my mom's side, they were really good business people. I think I picked that skill from them. That's awesome. My parents, they're not business people, until later, of their life. So I think, it was like just my upbringing and the environment that how I was nurtured to become who I am as an artist. And now I'm using my artistic skill to come up with creative business ideas, either in marketing and also helping my client to do some very creative, innovative book publication and packaging design. So I'm able to use my experience, my passion to help self-publishers, to turn the dream come true.
That's awesome. Did you grow up here in the United States?
I grew up in Hong Kong, and I came here when I went to college.
Wow.
When I was 18. Yes.
How different is the culture where you grew up as a child to the United States? Is it very different?
I grew up during the time when Hong Kong was under the British government. So I would say there's a lot of similarity. And I grew up listening to English, speaking English. So the only difference was the accent. I had very heavy British accents when I first came to America. Yeah. But I would say the culture, because Hong Kong was around that time, it was very European. So I grew up in a culture that's very similar to the culture here in California.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've seen recently with the upheaval over in Hong Kong that, people are walking around with American flags and liberty. I truly feel liberty is something that is granted by the creator of the universe, God, and he puts it in everyone's heart that everyone really wants to be free. And so it was beautiful to see the Hong Kong citizens walking around with American flags and singing for liberty, because it's truly in the heart of every single person. And I hope that they stay free and are able to maintain their sovereignty. But, you shared in your book some of the experience you came through here as an American citizen and people treating you horribly. And it's like, dude, seriously, in 20, whatever it was, people being silly. And, what did you learn through those experiences? What was your greatest takeaway?
I would say, before I feel being wronged by others, I have to examine myself whether I actually did the same thing to others. So that was kind of a wake-up call, to myself. But at the same time, I was surprised when I was giving remarks consistently over and over again, even in the 20th century, based on the story I share in the book. So there are people, they still have that stereotype, about people, of minority. Mm-hmm. So I think I was surprised, mm-hmm. but I overcame that, during the time when I was mistreated, and really stood up for myself, for the people that I represent. So I think it's important for us to be more sensitive to other people who look different from us. Mm-hmm. And I think through my experience, I become more receptive and more empathetic to people who are different from me. That's my biggest takeaway, I would say.
Yeah. And while I was reading your book and, I saw you standing up for yourself, I was like, you go, girl. Especially when that judge was telling, just give it up. You're not going to win. I'm like, no, fight. And you did. And so, yeah, I love that, because there would be times, and regardless if it's prejudice involved or whatever, there'll be times where you'd be called to actually fight and go forward, and it will be uncomfortable. But through that struggle, you'll become stronger if you stick with it.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah. So, I love this, but I don't want us to leave without people finding out how they can get their very own copy of 7 Years on the Front Line. How do they do that?
They can visit my website. My website is www.sarah with an H and Y as Yvonne, T for Tom, S for Sam, E for Edward.com. And they will be able to find there's a store page. And if they type the word faith, Faith, they're going to get free shipping.
Ooh, I like that. Now, share, because you're not just that, you're an entrepreneur, you're also a publisher, and you help people as a publisher and an artist. How can they get involved with your company if they want to do marketing or anything like that, or have the help or services of your company? What does that look like, and how could they do that?
They can visit my publishing company, which is also a printing. We're also a printing provider. The website is TSE Worldwide Press.com. So if they do a search under my name, they be able to find my publishing company. That's how some of my former clients look for me, by searching my name, and they found out, that's the contact information of my TSE Worldwide Press company.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Now, as we leave and we end this interview, how much has faith and God really played a part in your life and in your business?
I would end with a Bible verse I included in the inside back cover of my book, which is in John 16:33. In this world, you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. Just remember, I know the epidemic is very difficult to a lot of people, including my family, a lot of my clients, and some of my staff. We're going to have trial, tribulation in this world. But if we embrace the faith in Jesus, we know that, we have the promise. It's Jesus who overcome all the hardship for us. And the only thing that he wants us to do is put our faith in him.
That's it. Amen. Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. I just have to thank you so much for sharing your great wisdom today on Savvy Broadcasting. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more savvy episodes and savvy biz tips, go to www.lifeunscriptedradio.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.